this Wednesday, of course, is St. Valentine's Day. St. Valentine's Day. Who is St. Valentine? I don't know. There was a few St. Valentines back in antiquity, and most of them were martyred for their faith in the early centuries. And every saint, even back then, was assigned a feast day, so a certain day of the year where the memory of that saint was celebrated. St. Valentine's just happened to be on February 14th. Also, that day in agricultural folklore, February 14th, halfway through the second month of the year, is traditionally the day where supposedly you would notice the birds starting to pair up for their annual process of making baby birds. And so down the line, those two things got put together, and we have St. Valentine's Day. Have a good week, all right? Also, of course, on Wednesday, it's Ash Wednesday. So the beginning of our annual Lenten journey, when we come and we are imposed with ashes as a sign of penance. Remember, man, that you are dust, and to dust you shall return. Father repeats the word of the creator of the world to Adam and Eve when he evicted them from the Garden of Eden, and thus gave all of us the happy fault of sin and concupiscence, which is called a happy fault by the church fathers because it's debated if that never happened, would we have needed a savior? Would the Lord have come among us? So it's definitely something interesting for us to contemplate. Ash Wednesday, of course, is not always on Valentine's Day, and Easter, of course, is not always on April Fool's Day, which it happens to be this year. It switches. The formula for that is this. Easter needs to be on the first Sunday after the first full moon after the vernal equinox. You got that? That's how it works. Now, a lot of criticisms often come that we Catholics and Christians take a lot of the things from the pagans and we put our own stamp on them and said they were ours. And on its face, that's not untrue, but there's a lot more to it than that. Because before the revelation of Christ, human knowledge is human knowledge. All knowledge was pagan knowledge before Christ revealed himself to the world. And of course, even the church fathers in the great scholastic periods studied astronomy. It was one of the original 7 liberal arts, of course, which were logic, grammar, and rhetoric, which was the basis for the other 4, which was arithmetic, geometry, music, and astronomy. So Easter falls somewhere along the lines of Passover, because Passover is Holy Thursday, and that's how we celebrate. We know when Easter is coming. That's how we did it for a long time. But the Jewish calendar works off the moon. And so, working off the moon, things start to shift away, all right? And it starts being further in the year, and it's not so much of an accurate representation for commerce and agriculture. Follow me? So what happened was, the Romans created the calendar, as we know it today, named the months 365 days in the year, because it takes 365 days and some change for the Earth to go completely orbited around the sun. Now, for them to compensate, I won't say constipate, for them to compensate, they created the leap year to compensate. So what they did was they fixed the leap year. So every 4 years was the leap year. But as I said, it's not exactly 365 days. It takes 365.2 something, something, something. So as the years go on, we start slipping again. So in the time of Pope Gregory was introduced the Gregorian calendar. And the Gregorian calendar is what we still use today. And what that did was that made a new formula for calculating the leap year so that it doesn't keep slipping away from us. All right? So that formula for Easter that we have comes from the Gregorian calendar. Now, at the time Gregory put out that calendar, the Reformation was happening. So as you can imagine, our Protestant brothers and sisters were not too enthused with the Pope saying we're going to keep time in a different way now. So there was much resistance to it, but eventually, because of commerce, because of agriculture, the Gregorian calendar was universally accepted, except in one instance. The Orthodox Christians of the East, and still to this day, liturgically keep the old Julian calendar. And that is why you may have noticed that our Greek and Russian Orthodox brothers and sisters, their Easter isn't always on the same Sunday as our Easter, because their calendar slips and it falls. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's that.